You need to leave. Now. The words slice through the elegant dining room of Lumière like a blade through silk. Brad Thompson, the restaurant manager, stands over Amara Williams, a black woman in a navy blazer who clutches her briefcase at the hostess station. Crystal chandeliers cast shadows across her face as 30 pairs of eyes turn to watch. "Ma'am, this establishment has a strict dress code and clientele expectations," Brad continues, his voice carrying the authority of someone who's never been challenged. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave before you make our guests uncomfortable." Amara's fingers tighten around her briefcase handle. She's dressed professionally, more appropriately than half the diners present, but Brad's eyes see only what his prejudice allows. "I just wanted to—" Amara begins. "No exceptions," Brad cuts her off. "Security can escort you out if necessary." The hostess, Maria, shifts uncomfortably behind her podium. Something about this feels wrong, but challenging Brad means risking her job. Amara looks around the restaurant, her restaurant, and makes a decision that will change everything. What would you do if you were told to get out of your own business? Tell me where you're watching from. Brad doesn't know he just told the owner of the entire restaurant to leave. 30 minutes earlier, Amara Williams steps out of an Uber in front of Lumière, her flagship restaurant in downtown Chicago's Gold Coast. No flashy car announces her arrival. No entourage follows. Just a successful businesswoman carrying a leather briefcase, observing her establishment from the sidewalk. The restaurant gleams under the evening lights, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing elegant tables, soft lighting, and the careful choreography of fine dining service. She built this place from nothing 2 years ago, investing $3.2 million of her own money to create something special, a restaurant where exceptional food and inclusive service could coexist. Through the windows, she watches the dinner crowd, predominantly white professionals, couples celebrating anniversaries, business dinners conducted over wine lists that cost more than most people's monthly salaries. This is exactly what she envisioned, but something feels off tonight. Brad Thompson notices her through the glass. In his 8 years managing upscale restaurants, he's developed what he calls situational awareness, the ability to spot people who don't belong. The black woman standing outside, studying the entrance, triggers every unconscious bias he's cultivated. She enters through the heavy glass doors, and Brad immediately intercepts her path to the hostess station. Something about her composed confidence irritates him. She's too comfortable, too familiar with the space. "Good evening," Amara says to Maria, the young Latina hostess. "I'd like to—" "Excuse me," Brad interrupts, materializing beside the podium like a storm cloud. "Are you here for a reservation?" Amara studies his face, the slight sneer, the way his eyes assess her clothing, her briefcase, her very presence. She's seen this look before, but never in her own establishment. "I'm here to inspect the operation," she says simply. Brad's eyebrows raise. "Inspect? Ma'am, I think there's been some confusion. This is Lumière, a fine dining establishment. Perhaps you're looking for the community center down the street?" The condescension in his voice is unmistakable. Maria's stomach tightens as she recognizes the tone Brad uses when he wants someone gone. "No confusion," Amara replies, her voice steady. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Brad sizes her up again, the off-the-rack blazer, the practical briefcase, the absence of obvious wealth markers. His prejudice calcifies into certainty. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see your reservation confirmation. We're fully booked tonight, and walk-ins aren't typical for our clientele." Amara doesn't produce a reservation because she doesn't need one. She owns every table, every chair, every crystal glass in this place. But Brad's assumption reveals everything she needs to know about the culture he's created in her absence. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," she suggests. "There's nothing to discuss," Brad responds, his voice hardening with authority he believes he possesses. Amara's calm response to his aggression suggests she knows something Brad doesn't. Brad Thompson has handled situations like this before. In his previous position at the Winnetka Country Club, he'd mastered the art of exclusion, using policy and procedure to maintain what members called standards. Lumière may be downtown Chicago rather than suburban privilege, but the principles remain the same. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to state your business here," Brad announces, his voice carrying across the dining room. Several nearby tables pause their conversations to observe the confrontation. "I told you," Amara responds calmly. "I'm here to inspect the operation." "Inspect?" Brad's laugh is sharp and dismissive. "On whose authority? Are you from the health department? The city? Because I can assure you, all our permits and certifications are current." Amara studies his face, noting the way he positions himself between her and the dining room, the way his voice projects to ensure maximum audience participation in her humiliation. "I'd like to review your wine list," she says. "Our wine list?" Brad's condescension reaches new heights. "Ma'am, our wine selections start at $45 per bottle. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the Olive Garden." The suggestion lands like a slap. Maria winces behind the hostess podium. Carlos, a server passing with a tray of appetizers, slows his pace to listen. "I'm familiar with wine pricing," Amara replies. "What I'm curious about is your markup structure and vendor relationships." Brad's eyes narrow. Her questions are too specific, too knowledgeable. "Ma'am, that information is proprietary. I don't know what kind of scam you're running, but—" "Scam?" Amara's voice remains level, but something dangerous flickers in her eyes. "Look, I've been in hospitality for 8 years. I know when someone's fishing for information they shouldn't have. Whatever you're selling, whatever angle you're working, we're not interested." A young professional woman at table 12 discreetly starts recording on her phone, sensing the confrontation escalating beyond normal restaurant drama. "Mr. Amara waits for his name. "Thompson, Brad Thompson, and I'm the general manager of this establishment." "Mr. Thompson, I'd like to speak with whoever is above you in the hierarchy." Brad's smile turns predatory. "Ma'am, I am the hierarchy. The owners live in Europe and trust me to handle operations, which means what I say goes." The irony would be amusing if it weren't so offensive. Amara owns this restaurant, built it from the ground up, and hired Brad 6 months ago during her expansion into Milwaukee. She'd trusted her assistant manager's recommendation without conducting the interview personally, a mistake she's now paying for. "I see," Amara says quietly. "And part of your operational authority includes determining who belongs here?" "Exactly, and you clearly don't." When Amara asks about the wine selection, Brad makes a comment that crosses every line. Brad Thompson decides it's time to end this charade with decisive authority. 8 years in upscale hospitality has taught him that some people need clear boundaries, and this woman's persistent questioning suggests she's either delusional or running some kind of elaborate con. "Ma'am," Brad announces, his voice projecting across the dining room like a theater performance, "I'm going to need you to remove yourself from the premises immediately." "On what grounds?" Amara asks, her composure unshaken. "On the grounds that you're disrupting our guests' dining experience with inappropriate behavior." Brad gestures toward the surrounding tables where conversations have stopped and faces have turned to watch the spectacle. An elderly white couple at table 8 nods approvingly. They didn't pay premium prices to watch someone obviously out of place create disturbances. "What exactly is inappropriate about my behavior?" Amara's question is delivered with the precision of someone accustomed to courtrooms. "Your refusal to leave when asked, your interrogation about proprietary business information, your obvious attempt to gain access to areas where you don't belong." Brad opens her briefcase without permission, examining the contents like a security checkpoint. Inside, business documents, a laptop, restaurant industry publications, and financial reports. He fans through the papers dismissively. "Studying up on the restaurant business?" he sneers. "Let me guess, you're writing a Yelp review?" Or maybe you're one of those food bloggers looking for a story. Maria watches from behind the hostess station, her hands trembling. In 6 months working here, she's witnessed Brad's systematic rudeness toward customers he deems unsuitable, but never anything this public and cruel. "Sir," Amara says quietly, "I think you're making assumptions." "I'm making observations," Brad cuts her off. "I see someone who walked in here without a reservation, refuses to leave when asked, and is now attempting to access confidential business information. That sounds like suspicious behavior to me." Carlos, the server, exchanges glances with Jennifer, the sommelier. Both recognize the discrimination unfolding, but fear for their jobs if they intervene. "Ma'am," Brad continues, his voice growing louder, "let me be clear about something. This establishment caters to a very specific demographic. People who understand fine dining, people who appreciate quality, people who—" He pauses, searching for the right euphemism. "People who fit our atmosphere." The phrase hangs in the air like toxic gas. Several diners shift uncomfortably. The young woman recording widens her phone's angle to capture more of the scene. "And I don't fit your atmosphere?" Amara asks. "Frankly, no, you don't. This isn't personal, it's business. We have standards to maintain, expectations to meet. Our clientele pays premium prices for a certain environment." Brad's eyes scan her outfit again. The navy blazer from Nordstrom rather than designer boutiques, the practical leather briefcase instead of a luxury handbag, the absence of obvious jewelry or status symbols. "Your kind," he says, the words loaded with decades of practiced exclusion, "might be more comfortable at establishments that cater to different expectations." The phrase, "your kind," echoes through the dining room like a gunshot. Maria gasps audibly. Jennifer, the sommelier, looks physically ill. Amara stands perfectly still for a long moment, processing not just the words, but their implications for every other person of color who might walk through her restaurant's doors. "I see," she says finally. "You're saying people like me don't belong in places like this." "I'm saying everyone should know their place," Brad responds, confident in his authority. "And your place isn't here." Amara quietly says, "I'll remember everything you've said tonight," and heads for the door. Amara Williams sits in the back seat of an Uber, watching Lumiere's warm lights recede through the rear window. The driver, a middle-aged black man named Jerome, glances at her in the rearview mirror. "You okay back there? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something like that," Amara murmurs, her fingers tight around her briefcase handle. The humiliation burns, but beneath the pain lies something more dangerous. Determination. She built Williams' hospitality group from a single food truck on Chicago's South Side. 15 years of 18-hour days, culinary school loans, and investors who didn't believe a young black woman could succeed in fine dining. Every restaurant in her portfolio represents a victory over people who looked at her the way Brad Thompson just did. But this feels different. This feels personal. Because Lumière isn't just another restaurant. It's her flagship, her statement about what inclusive excellence looks like. And she hired the man who just told her she doesn't belong there. "Jerome, can you pull over for a minute?" He finds a parking space 2 blocks from the restaurant. Amara takes out her phone and dials the first of several calls that will change Brad Thompson's world. "Janet, it's Amara. I need emergency documentation for wrongful termination proceedings." "Yes, tonight. Brad Thompson, the general manager at Lumière. Because he just discriminated against the owner of the restaurant." Janet Morrison, her head of legal affairs, has handled discrimination cases before, but never one where the victim owned the establishment. "Amara, what exactly happened?" "He told me I didn't belong in my own restaurant, called me my kind, suggested I'd be more comfortable somewhere that caters to different expectations." Amara's voice remains steady, but Janet can hear the steel beneath the calm. "Did anyone witness this?" 30 diners, 5 staff members, and at least one person recording on their phone. Jesus. Okay. I'll prepare termination documents tonight. Do you want to press criminal charges? Let's see how he responds to unemployment first. The second call goes to Michael Chen, her HR director. Michael, prepare immediate termination protocols for Brad Thompson. Effective tomorrow morning, gross misconduct, discriminatory behavior, violation of company values. Yes, I'll explain everything later. The third call reaches David Park, her business partner and co-founder of Williams Hospitality Group. David, we have a problem at Lumière. The new manager. No, worse than incompetent. He's a liability. Meet me at the office in an hour. The fourth call connects her to Sarah Martinez, head of public relations. Sarah, prepare crisis communication strategy. We're about to make personnel changes that might attract attention. The kind of attention that comes with firing someone for racism. In our own restaurant. Amara reviews the security footage on her phone. Lumière's cameras are connected to her mobile app for remote monitoring. Everything is documented. Brad's condescension, his refusal to listen, his public humiliation of a customer who happened to be his employer. She opens her laptop and begins typing detailed notes about the evening's events. Every word Brad spoke, every gesture, every moment when staff members chose silence over intervention. Tomorrow morning, she'll return to Lumière with her legal team, and everyone will understand exactly who Amara Williams is. Her phone buzzes with the text from Jerome. My daughter's studying hospitality management at Columbia College. Maybe she should find a different career? Amara types back, tell her to stay in school. We're going to need good people to replace the bad ones. Tomorrow morning, Amara will return to Lumière, but this time, everyone will know exactly who she is. Brad Thompson pours himself a scotch from the bar's top shelf, savoring both the liquor and his successful handling of a potentially disruptive situation. The dining room has returned to its normal rhythm, the soft clink of crystal, murmured conversations about quarterly earnings and weekend plans in the Hamptons. Maria, he calls to the hostess station. Good catch on that situation earlier. You recognized she didn't belong here. Maria Gonzalez shifts uncomfortably behind her podium. Mr. Thompson, I'm not sure she was actually causing any problems. Maria, you've been here 6 months. Trust me, I've been doing this for 8 years. Some people try to take advantage of hospitality, and you have to shut it down quickly before it spreads. But Maria can't shake the image of the woman's dignity under assault, the way she remained calm despite Brad's escalating aggression. Something about the encounter felt wrong, fundamentally wrong. Carlos approaches the hostess station with dirty plates from table 12. Brad, the woman at 12 wants to speak with you. The young professional who'd been recording looks up as Brad approaches her table. Sir, I wanted to ask about what just happened with that woman. Nothing to concern yourself with, Brad replies smoothly. Just a confused individual who wandered into the wrong establishment. We handle these situations quickly to minimize disruption to our valued guests. She seemed perfectly polite to me. Ma'am, appearances can be deceiving. Part of maintaining standards means recognizing when someone doesn't understand the environment they're entering. The woman, Sarah Chen, a tech executive, studies Brad's face carefully. And you determined she didn't understand based on experience. 8 years in hospitality management teaches you to read people quickly. Sarah nods slowly, her phone still recording under the table. I see. Well, I wanted you to know that I posted a video of the interaction on TikTok. It's getting quite a bit of attention. Brad's confidence falters slightly. A video. Lumière discrimination. It's trending locally. Almost 15,000 views in the past hour. The scotch turns to acid in Brad's stomach. He hadn't noticed anyone recording, hadn't considered that his professional handling might be misinterpreted by social media. Ma'am, I hope you'll consider that there are always 2 sides to every story. Oh, I'm sure there are, Sarah interrupts. But only one side was telling a black woman she didn't belong in a restaurant. Brad retreats to his office and pulls up TikTok on his phone. The video is there. his voice clearly audible telling Amara she doesn't fit the atmosphere, suggesting she'd be more comfortable elsewhere, examining her briefcase like contraband. The comments are brutal. This is 2023 and this man is acting like it's 1953. Someone needs to find out who this manager is. That woman handled it with more grace than I would have. Boycott Lumière until they fire this racist. Brad has no idea that his professional handling just cost him everything. By morning, Sarah Chen's TikTok video has exploded across social media platforms. The hashtag Lumière discrimination trends not just locally but nationally, with celebrity chefs and food industry professionals weighing in on restaurant discrimination. Brad Thompson arrives at Lumière for the breakfast prep shift, his usual confidence replaced by gnawing anxiety. The video has reached 127,000 views overnight, shared by Food Network personalities and restaurant critics across the country. "Morning, Brad," Carlos calls from the kitchen. "You seen the news?" "What news?" Carlos holds up his phone, showing local Channel 7's website. "Downtown restaurant under fire for alleged discrimination." The article includes screenshots from the viral video and quotes from civil rights advocates calling for boycotts. "It's just social media nonsense," Brad tells himself, but his hands shake as he pours coffee. These things blow over in a day or two. Jennifer, the sommelier, approaches with the morning's delivery invoices. "Brad, we've had 12 reservation cancellations since last night. People are calling specifically to cite the discrimination video." 12 cancellations? And the phone keeps ringing. Some supportive, but mostly not. Maria arrives for her shift looking exhausted. She'd spent the night watching the video circulate on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, each platform adding new layers of outrage. Friends from her neighborhood in Pilsen had tagged her in posts asking if she worked at that racist restaurant. "Mr. Thompson," she says quietly, "maybe we should prepare some kind of statement." "No statements," Brad snaps. "This is exactly what these people want, to create drama where none exists. We respond to social media mob tactics, and it legitimizes their behavior." What Brad doesn't realize is that while he's dismissing social media mob tactics, Amara Williams is in her office downtown, reviewing legal documents prepared overnight by her team. Termination papers, discrimination lawsuit filings, a comprehensive plan to transform Lumière's culture from the ground up. Her phone buzzes with updates from her social media manager. Story picked up by Eater Chicago, Food and Wine tweeting about industry-wide discrimination. James Beard Foundation asking for comment. David Park, her business partner, sits across from her desk reviewing security footage from the previous night. "Amara, this is clear-cut discrimination. But are you sure you want the public attention that comes with firing him publicly?" "David, I built this company to prove that excellent food and inclusive service aren't mutually exclusive. If I let this slide, what message does that send to every other person of color who walks into our restaurants?" "Fair point. What's the plan?" Amara closes her laptop and stands. "We're going to Lumière. Brad Thompson is about to learn that discrimination has consequences." At 10 a.m. sharp, Amara walks through Lumière's front door with a team of lawyers. The morning sunlight streams through Lumière's floor-to-ceiling windows as Amara Williams enters her flagship restaurant for the second time in 12 hours. This time, she's not alone. Janet Morrison, her chief legal counsel, flanks her right side. Michael Chen, HR director, walks to her left. Behind them, a paralegal carries a briefcase full of documents that will end Brad Thompson's career. Brad emerges from the kitchen reviewing inventory sheets, still wearing the confidence of a man who believes his authority is unquestionable. He recognizes Amara immediately, the troublemaker from last night, returning with what appears to be a small legal team. "Ma'am, I thought I made myself clear yesterday evening," Brad announces, his voice carrying the same condescending authority. "You're not welcome in this establishment." "Mr. Thompson?" Janet Morrison steps forward, her voice crisp with legal precision. I'm Janet Morrison, legal counsel for Williams Hospitality Group. We need to discuss your employment status. Brad's eyes narrow as he processes the words. Williams Hospitality Group? I've never heard of. The company that owns this restaurant, Michael Chen interrupts, along with 11 others across Chicago and Milwaukee. The color drains from Brad's face as the implications begin to register. His eyes dart between the legal team and Amara, who stands quietly observing his mounting panic. This is some kind of mistake, Brad stammers. The owners live in Europe. I report directly to... You report to me, Amara says quietly. Or rather, you reported to me until last night. Staff members begin gathering near the kitchen doors. Maria, Carlos, Jennifer, and others who witnessed the previous evening's confrontation. The pieces of a puzzle they didn't know they were solving suddenly click into place. You're claiming to be... Brad can't complete the sentence. I'm not claiming anything, Amara responds. I am Amara Williams, founder and CEO of Williams Hospitality Group. This is my restaurant. You work for me. Or rather, you worked for me until you decided people like me don't belong here. Brad's legs feel unsteady. The woman he humiliated, the person he told to know her place, owns everything around him. Every table, every chair, every crystal glass he'd used to establish his authority. Mr. Thompson, Janet Morrison continues, you're terminated for cause, effective immediately. Gross misconduct, discriminatory behavior, and violation of company policy regarding inclusive service. This is impossible, Brad whispers. You can't just... Security will escort you from the premises, Michael Chen adds. You have 10 minutes to collect personal belongings from your office. Company property remains here. Carlos, the server who'd watched Brad's discrimination with silent discomfort, steps forward. Ms. Williams, I wanted to apologize for not saying anything last night. I should have... Carlos, Amara interrupts gently. We'll discuss how to improve our culture going forward. Right now, I need to address the immediate situation. Can you guess what she's about to reveal? Drop your predictions in the comments. Brad looks around desperately, seeking support from staff who've endured his management for 6 months. He finds only uncomfortable silence and averted eyes. Amara says 4 words that will change everything. I own this restaurant. The words land in the dining room like thunder. I am Amara Williams, owner and CEO of Williams Hospitality Group. Brad Thompson's face cycles through shock, disbelief, and growing horror as the full magnitude of his mistake becomes clear. The woman he humiliated, the person he told didn't belong, owns not just this restaurant, but an empire. Williams Hospitality Group, Amara continues, her voice steady and professional, operates 12 upscale restaurants across Chicago and Milwaukee. Annual revenue, $47 million. Lumière is our flagship establishment, opened 2 years ago with a $3.2 million investment. Maria's hand flies to her mouth. She recognizes the name from industry publications. Williams Hospitality Group has been featured in Food and Wine, Bon Appetit, and Restaurant Business magazine as a leader in inclusive fine dining. Our mission, Amara continues, has always been simple. Prove that exceptional food and service don't require exclusion. Great hospitality means making everyone feel welcome regardless of their appearance, background, or perceived social status. Carlos steps forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Ms. Williams, I'm so sorry. I should have said something last night. Carlos, you were afraid for your job. I understand that. But going forward, we're creating an environment where speaking up for what's right is rewarded, not punished. Jennifer, the sommelier, looks physically ill. I watched it happen and did nothing. I'm ashamed. Jennifer, shame is the beginning of growth. What matters is what we do next. Brad finds his voice, desperation making him bold. This is some kind of elaborate scam. I don't believe... Janet Morrison opens her briefcase and produces incorporation documents, business licenses, and property deeds. Mr. Thompson, these are public records. Williams Hospitality Group purchased this property in March 2021. Ms. Williams has owned this restaurant since before you were hired. The irony is devastating. Brad had bragged about his authority, claiming the owners trusted him to maintain standards. The owner was standing right in front of him, and he'd told her she didn't belong. My background, Amara says, addressing the staff gathered around her, might surprise some of you. I started with a food truck on Chicago's South Side, worked 3 jobs to pay for culinary school. Built this company from nothing because I believed Chicago needed restaurants where excellence and inclusion could coexist. She walks to the center of the dining room, the same spot where Brad had humiliated her 12 hours earlier. I've faced discrimination in restaurants my entire life. Servers who assumed I couldn't afford the menu. Managers who questioned my reservations. Hostesses who suggested I'd be more comfortable elsewhere. I built Williams Hospitality Group to ensure no one else would face that treatment. Brad's world continues crumbling as the staff processes what they're learning. The quiet woman he'd dismissed as a troublemaker is industry royalty, featured on magazine covers, invited to speak at hospitality conferences, recognized as one of Chicago's most successful restaurateurs. Mr. Thompson, Amara turns to face him directly. Last night you told me people like me don't understand fine dining. You suggested I should know my place. You examined my briefcase like I was a criminal. You did all of this in front of customers and staff, creating an environment of hostility and discrimination. I was protecting the restaurant's reputation. You were protecting your prejudices, Amara interrupts. And in doing so, you violated everything this restaurant represents. Michael Chen steps forward with termination documents. Mr. Thompson, your employment is terminated effective immediately. You'll receive no severance due to the discriminatory nature of your conduct. Our legal team will be filing civil rights charges. This isn't legal, Brad protests weakly. Mr. Thompson, Janet Morrison responds, discrimination based on race is not only grounds for termination, it's a federal crime. The video evidence from last night provides clear documentation of your violations. Amara addresses her staff. Everyone will have the opportunity to continue their employment here, but only after comprehensive training on inclusive service. This restaurant will become a model for the industry, a place where talent and dedication matter more than appearance or assumptions. Maria raises her hand tentatively. Ms. Williams, what can we do to make this right? Maria, you can start by treating every guest who walks through that door with the same respect you'd want for your own family. Excellence in hospitality isn't about excluding people, it's about including everyone in something special. Brad makes one last, desperate attempt. The customers expect a certain atmosphere. The customers expect great food and excellent service, Amara cuts him off. They don't expect discrimination, and any customer who does expect that isn't welcome in my restaurant. Security guards arrive, summoned by Michael Chen, to escort Brad from the premises. As he's led toward the exit, Brad turns back one final time. This won't change anything, he says. People like you still don't belong in places like this. Amara's response is quiet but reaches every corner of the dining room. Mr. Thompson, I don't belong in places like this. I built places like this so everyone belongs. But Amara's not done. The legal and professional consequences for Brad are just beginning. Within 24 hours of Brad Thompson's termination, the story explodes across every major platform. Sarah Chen's original TikTok video reaches 3.2 million views. Hashtag Lumière discrimination trends nationally alongside #Williams, hospitality, and #own the table. Celebrity chef Jose Andres tweets, discrimination has no place in hospitality. Proud of Amara Williams for taking a stand. The post garners 47,000 retweets in 6 hours. Food Network's official account shares the story. Restaurant owner faces discrimination in her own establishment. fires manager responsible. The video compilation reaches 1.8 million views by midnight. Brad, meanwhile, sits in his studio apartment watching his professional destruction unfold in real time. His name trends on Twitter, not for culinary achievements, but as a cautionary tale about workplace discrimination. His LinkedIn profile attracts hundreds of messages, none of them job offers. The restaurant industry responds with unprecedented speed. The National Restaurant Association issues an emergency statement condemning discrimination and announcing new training requirements for member establishments. Chicago Restaurant Week organizers invite Amara to serve as keynote speaker for their annual conference. Her topic? Building Inclusive Excellence in Fine Dining. Alinia's Granta Chats reaches out personally. Would love to discuss partnering on industry-wide bias training. What you did took incredible courage. The James Beard Foundation announces new guidelines for award eligibility, including demonstrated commitment to inclusive hiring and service practices. Janet Morrison files a comprehensive civil rights lawsuit against Brad personally, seeking damages for intentional discrimination based on race, violation of Illinois Human Rights Act, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, suggesting Amara was running a scam. The Cook County State's attorney opens a criminal investigation into civil rights violations. Prosecutor Maria Santos explains, when discrimination occurs in places of public accommodation, it becomes a matter of public interest. Brad's court-appointed attorney, overwhelmed by evidence, advises immediate settlement. Brad, there's video footage of you telling a black business owner she doesn't belong in her own restaurant. No jury will side with you. Lumière's reservations. Bookings increased 340% within 1 week. The restaurant is fully booked for the next 3 months, with a waiting list of over 800 people. Williams Hospitality Group. Stock in the privately held company increases 23% as investors recognize the business value of ethical leadership. Brad's personal finances. His savings account, already strained from Chicago's cost of living, can't cover legal fees. He's forced to liquidate his retirement account and sell his car. Within 2 weeks, Brad discovers the true cost of discrimination in the interconnected restaurant world. Gibson's Restaurant Group. We don't employ individuals with discrimination violations. Let us entertain you. Our company values don't align with candidates who have civil rights complaints. Alinea Group. We'll need to pass on your application. The hospitality industry, built on reputation and word of mouth, offers no refuge for managers with documented discrimination histories. 60 Minutes requests an interview with Amara for a segment on discrimination in fine dining. She accepts, using the platform to discuss systemic issues beyond individual bias. The New York Times food critic Pete Wells writes a feature, When the Owner Doesn't Belong, How One Restaurant Confronted Its Own Bias. Chicago Tribune business section profiles Williams Hospitality Group's growth strategy, noting how the controversy has actually strengthened the company's brand. Brad's social media accounts become battlegrounds. His Instagram, formerly filled with pictures of high-end restaurant experiences, attracts thousands of comments calling him a racist and dinosaur. His Facebook profile, where he'd posted about maintaining standards in hospitality, becomes a screenshot shared across platforms as evidence of coded discrimination language. His Twitter account, abandoned after the first day of harassment, remains a digital monument to his downfall. Columbia College Chicago's hospitality program adds Amara's case to their required curriculum on workplace discrimination. The Culinary Institute of America invites her to develop new training modules on inclusive service. Cornell's School of Hotel Administration creates the Williams Fellowship for minority students pursuing careers in upscale hospitality. American Express approaches Williams Hospitality Group about featuring Lumière in their Centurion Experience program for high-value customers. Open Table offers to waive fees for all Williams Hospitality Group restaurants as a show of support for inclusive dining. 3 new investors contact David Park about funding expansion. We want to be part of what you're building. The story reaches international hospitality publications. Caterer magazine in London features Amara on their cover, the owner who fought back. Restaurant Australia invites her to speak at their annual conference on building inclusive food cultures. The World Economic Forum extends an invitation to join their hospitality diversity panel. Brad Thompson works as a night shift line cook at a 24-hour diner in suburban Schaumburg. His $65,000 management salary has become $28,000 in hourly wages. His professional reputation, built over 8 years, was destroyed in 8 seconds of video. Amara Williams graces the cover of Entrepreneur magazine, the CEO who turned discrimination into industry transformation. Williams Hospitality Group announces 3 new restaurant acquisitions and plans for expansion into Detroit and Cleveland. The discrimination lawsuit settles out of court. Brad pays $75,000 in damages and agrees to complete 200 hours of bias training and community service. Brad's court hearing will determine if discrimination in restaurants carries criminal consequences. 6 months after the viral video that destroyed his career, Brad Thompson sits in Cook County Criminal Court wearing a wrinkled dress shirt and borrowed tie. The federal courtroom is packed with reporters, civil rights advocates, and hospitality industry professionals who've come to witness what many consider a landmark case in restaurant discrimination. Judge Patricia Williams, no relation to Amara, presides over proceedings that will determine whether workplace discrimination in public accommodations constitutes criminal behavior. The irony of a black female judge hearing Brad's case isn't lost on anyone present. This case, Judge Williams announces, concerns more than individual misconduct. It addresses systemic discrimination in an industry that serves the public and employs millions of Americans. Amara takes the witness stand first, her testimony measured and devastating. She wears the same navy blazer from that night at Lumière, not as a victim, but as a business leader demanding accountability. Your Honor, Mr. Thompson didn't just discriminate against me personally. He created an environment where staff members learned that certain customers don't deserve basic respect. That environment is toxic to employees and devastating to communities. The prosecution presents crushing evidence. The viral TikTok video showing Brad's discriminatory language, security footage from Lumière's cameras, and testimony from staff members who witnessed the incident. Carlos, the server, testifies about the hostile work environment. Mr. Thompson regularly made comments about customers he felt didn't belong. He taught us to categorize people by appearance rather than treat everyone with respect. Maria, the hostess, describes the fear that kept staff silent. We knew what we saw was wrong, but challenging Mr. Thompson meant risking our jobs. He made it clear that questioning his judgment was insubordination. Jennifer, the sommelier, shares the most damaging testimony. The night before the incident, Mr. Thompson told me that certain types of people were bad for business. He was specifically referring to minority customers. Brad's public defender, overmatched by the evidence and media attention, attempts a desperate defense. Your Honor, my client made errors in judgment, but criminal charges for workplace discrimination set a dangerous precedent. Counselor, Judge Williams interrupts. Dangerous precedents are what allow discrimination to flourish unchecked. This court will determine whether Mr. Thompson's actions constitute criminal violation of civil rights. When called to testify, Brad attempts to justify his behavior with language that only confirms his guilt. Your Honor, I was trying to maintain the restaurant's reputation. In fine dining, atmosphere is everything. Certain situations can disrupt the experience we're trying to create. What situations, Mr. Thompson? When people who don't understand the environment try to access services they're not prepared for. And you determined, Ms. Williams wasn't prepared based on what criteria? Brad realizes he's trapped. Any honest answer confirms racial discrimination. Any lie constitutes perjury. Experience, he answers weakly. 8 years in hospitality management. Experience in excluding people based on race? No, I wasn't thinking about race. The prosecution plays the video again, Brad's voice clearly audible. Your kind might be more comfortable at establishments that cater to different expectations. Mr. Thompson, Judge Williams asks, what did you mean by your kind? Brad's silence stretches for 30 seconds before his attorney whispers urgent advice about self-incrimination. The prosecution's closing argument is devastating. Your Honor, Mr. Thompson's testimony confirms what video evidence already proved. He systematically excluded customers based on racial assumptions. This isn't a workplace dispute. It's a civil rights violation that demands criminal accountability. Judge Williams deliberates for 2 hours before returning with her verdict. Mr. Thompson, your actions constitute willful violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act and federal civil rights statutes. You created a hostile environment for both customers and employees based on racial prejudice. You're sentenced to 18 months in county jail, suspended to 36 months supervised probation, $50,000 in fines, 500 hours of community service at civil rights organizations, mandatory bias counseling, and lifetime prohibition from restaurant management positions. Brad's legs buckle as the reality hits. Not only is his hospitality career over, but he'll spend the next 3 years under court supervision, working with the very communities he discriminated against. Outside the courthouse, Amara addresses a crowd of supporters and media. Today's verdict sends a clear message. Discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's criminally wrong. This case protects every person who walks into a restaurant expecting to be treated with basic human dignity. The verdict will reshape how the entire restaurant industry approaches inclusion. The Williams versus Thompson case creates seismic shifts across the American restaurant industry. Within 6 months, Lumière standards become the benchmark for inclusive hospitality nationwide. The National Restaurant Association announces mandatory bias training for all member establishments. CEO Michelle Williams, no relation, states, the Amara Williams case proves that discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's economically devastating. The James Beard Foundation revises award criteria to include demonstrated commitment to inclusive service. Restaurants must now document diversity training and inclusive hiring practices to qualify for recognition. State governments respond with unprecedented speed. Illinois passes the Restaurant Equity Act, requiring bias training for all food service management licenses. California, New York, and 8 other states introduce similar legislation within 90 days. Federal intervention follows. The Department of Justice establishes the Restaurant Discrimination Task Force, using the Williams case as a template for investigating systematic exclusion in public accommodations. Major chains implement immediate changes. McDonald's requires bias training for all franchise managers. Starbucks partners with Williams Hospitality Group to develop inclusive service protocols. Chipotle creates anonymous reporting systems for discrimination incidents. Fine dining establishments rush to demonstrate inclusive commitment. The French Laundry announces partnership with historically Black culinary schools. 11 Madison Park creates mentorship programs for minority restaurant workers. Le Bernardin implements dignity training for all front-of-house staff. Culinary education transforms. The Culinary Institute of America makes bias awareness mandatory curriculum. Johnson & Wales University creates the Williams Center for Inclusive Hospitality. Community colleges across the country add discrimination awareness to food service programs. Technology companies respond. OpenTable develops bias reporting features allowing customers to flag discriminatory treatment. Yelp adds inclusive service ratings to restaurant profiles. Reezy partners with civil rights organizations to monitor member establishments. Insurance industry adapts. Restaurant liability policies now exclude coverage for discrimination claims. Premiums increase for establishments with bias complaints. Industry consultants offer inclusion audits to reduce legal exposure. Economic impact becomes undeniable. Studies show restaurants with documented inclusive practices average 28% higher revenue than industry standard. Harvard Business School publishes research proving bias training increases customer satisfaction across all demographics. International influence spreads. The European Union adopts Williams protocols for hospitality businesses. Restaurant associations in Canada, Australia, and the UK implement similar discrimination prevention programs. Celebrity chef activism. Jose Andres creates the Dignity in Dining initiative. Tom Colicchio testifies before Congress about industry discrimination. Anthony Bourdain's estate posthumously endorses inclusive hospitality training. Legal precedent strengthens. Federal courts cite Williams versus Thompson in subsequent discrimination cases. The ruling establishes that systematic exclusion in public accommodations constitutes criminal civil rights violations. Cultural transformation accelerates. A new generation of restaurant managers grows up expecting diversity as normal. Culinary schools report increased enrollment from underrepresented communities. Industry publications regularly feature inclusive dining success stories. Measurement and accountability. Annual inclusion reports become standard for restaurant groups. Anonymous customer surveys track discriminatory treatment. Industry rankings now include diversity metrics alongside food quality ratings. 2 years later, discrimination complaints in American restaurants have dropped 71% from pre-Williams levels. The change that began with one woman's dignity now protects millions of diners nationwide. 2 years later, Amara returns to Lumière for a very special celebration. 2 years and 3 months after that devastating night in her own restaurant, Amara Williams returns to Lumière for the most meaningful celebration of her career. Tonight, the restaurant officially receives its Michelin star, the first Chicago establishment to earn the designation, while also holding the James Beard Foundation's Excellence in Inclusive Service Award. The transformation is evident from the moment she enters. The hostess station, now staffed by Marcus Rodriguez, a graduate of the Williams Fellowship Program, reflects the diversity Amara always envisioned. Behind him, the dining room buzzes with conversations in multiple languages, couples of every background sharing anniversary dinners, business meetings conducted by professionals who no longer worry about whether they'll be welcomed. Maria Gonzalez, promoted to assistant general manager after completing Cornell's hospitality leadership program, greets Amara with genuine warmth. Ms. Williams, thank you for believing in us when we couldn't believe in ourselves. The staff has evolved beyond recognition. Carlos now leads the sommelier program, having discovered a passion for wine education after Amara sponsored his advanced certification. Jennifer manages the front-of-house team with confidence born from knowing that inclusive service isn't just policy, it's profitable. Amara, David Park approaches with the evening's reservation report. We're booked solid for the next 4 months. The waiting list has over 1,200 names. She nods, unsurprised. Excellence and inclusion have proven to be complementary forces, not competing ones. Lumière's transformation into Chicago's most sought-after reservation demonstrates what she's always believed. People want to spend money at places that respect their dignity. At table 12, the same table where Sarah Chen recorded the viral video that changed everything, a young black girl celebrates her birthday with her family. She orders the tasting menu with the confidence of someone who's never been told she doesn't belong anywhere. Amara's phone buzzes with a news alert. Former Lumière manager Brad Thompson completes court-mandated community service. The article notes his work with the Chicago Urban League, teaching bias awareness to restaurant workers. Reports suggest genuine transformation, though trust must be earned through sustained action rather than court orders. Any regrets? David asks, following her gaze toward the table where her humiliation became her catalyst. About firing Brad? None. About the pain our family endured? If it prevents other families from experiencing the same discrimination, then it served a purpose larger than our comfort. Lisa Williams, Amara's wife of 15 years, joins them at the bar. The kids want to know if they can order dessert first tonight since it's a special occasion. Amara laughs, the first genuine laugh she's had in this space since the incident. Tell them this is their restaurant too. They can order whatever makes them happy. The evening's highlight comes when Dr. James Washington, a prominent civil rights attorney, approaches their table. Ms. Williams, I wanted to thank you personally. My daughter is studying hospitality management at Columbia College because of your example. She says she wants to build restaurants like Ms. Williams, places where everyone belongs. This is the legacy Amara treasures most, not the business success or legal precedents, but young people who see hospitality as a profession of dignity rather than discrimination. As the evening winds down, Amara stands in the center of the dining room where Brad once told her she didn't belong. The space now represents everything she envisioned when she first invested her life savings in this dream. A place where exceptional food and inclusive service create magic together. Marcus approaches with the final seating of the evening, an elderly interracial couple celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. In 1973, they couldn't find restaurants that would serve them together. Tonight, they're treated like royalty by a staff that reflects the community's beautiful diversity. Ms. Williams, Marcus says quietly, thank you for showing us that our job isn't to judge who belongs here. Our job is to make everyone feel like they belong here. Amara watches the couple share a chocolate souffle and realizes this is what victory looks like. Not revenge against individuals, but systematic change that protects future generations. True power isn't about excluding others. It's about including everyone in excellence. Amara Williams' extraordinary journey from humiliation to industry transformation proves that individual courage can reshape entire economic sectors. What began as a routine inspection of her flagship restaurant became a catalyst for change that now protects millions of diners from discrimination. The story demonstrates that ownership without values is meaningless, but ownership with purpose becomes revolutionary. Amara didn't just fire a discriminatory manager, she fired a discriminatory system, replacing exclusion with excellence and proving that inclusion drives profitability. This narrative extends beyond restaurants into every service industry where discrimination persists. Hotels, retail stores, medical offices, and entertainment venues all wrestle with the same fundamental question. Do we serve some people or all people? Would you have handled this differently? Share this story if discrimination in restaurants needs to end. Brad Thompson's fall from $65,000 management salary to $28,000 hourly wages demonstrates that prejudice carries devastating personal costs. His 8-year career evaporated in 8 seconds of viral video because he couldn't see past the color of a customer's skin, who happened to own everything around him. But this story isn't really about Brad's downfall or even Amara's triumph. It's about Maria's promotion from hostess to assistant general manager. It's about Carlos discovering his passion for wine education. It's about Marcus learning that hospitality means making everyone feel they belong. Most importantly, it's about the young black girl celebrating her birthday at table 12, ordering the tasting menu with confidence because she's growing up in a world where her dignity isn't negotiable. The transformation at Lumière sparked industry-wide changes that seemed impossible just 3 years ago. Bias training became standard practice. Inclusive hiring became competitive advantage. Anonymous reporting systems gave employees power to prevent discrimination before it escalates. Your response to discrimination matters too. When you witness bias in restaurants, hotels, or any service business, you have choices that determine outcomes. You can stay silent and enable continuation, or speak up and demand accountability. Support businesses that demonstrate inclusive values. Leave reviews highlighting respectful treatment. Share stories of establishments that prove excellence and equality can coexist. Economic pressure creates faster change than legislation alone. Use Amara's case as a template. Document incidents, understand your rights, and remember that business owners who discriminate aren't just morally wrong, they're economically stupid. Inclusion drives profitability across every industry. The Williams precedent reminds us that justice isn't just about punishing wrongdoing. It's about creating systems that prevent future harm. Every dollar spent at inclusive businesses represents a vote for the kind of world we want to inherit. Change begins with refusing to accept unacceptable treatment. It continues with supporting leaders who create equitable environments. It's completed when the next generation can't imagine a world where respect depends on appearance rather than humanity. Next week, we'll share the story of Judge Patricia Chen, who confronted racial profiling in her own courthouse, and how one courtroom confrontation changed judicial conduct nationwide. Subscribe now to see how justice professionals can become agents of systemic change.